Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Good evening everybody, Militia Man and Crew. We're just going to get started. We're going to have some dinar news, and it'll be kind of quick and easy for us tonight, I believe, because there's been some really good information, but there's not a whole lot, because we already know that Iraq is moving towards integration into the global financial system, and you're going to see components of that, the ISX, ADX connection. You're going to see a few of those things tonight. But first, a word from our video sponsor, Noble Gold Investments, who makes your wealth become simple. Gold's gone mainstream. You're seeing it everywhere, and prices keep climbing. Every day, more and more Americans are catching on to the power of gold. But how do you actually take advantage of it? How do you invest in a way that's safe, simple, and built for the long run? That's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. Noble Gold specialists are trained to help investors like you go from confused to confident, from wondering what's next to knowing exactly what to do. Whether you're looking to roll over an old 401k into a gold IRA, or you want physical coins and bars delivered right to your home, Noble Gold makes the process simple, safe, and stress-free. You'll get a step-by-step guidance, transparency pricing, and US-based service from a team that's handled over $2.5 billion in precious metal transactions. With Noble Gold Investments, protecting and growing your wealth isn't just their job, it's their commitment. So visit noblegoldinvestments.com today to claim your free wealth protection kit. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Noble Gold, helping you build a stronger future. So tonight we're just going to jump in and have a good article here tonight. It's called "The Regional Government Announces the Deposit of 120 billion dinars in the federal finance account." You guys got to pay attention to what's happened in the past, okay? And one of the key components is something like this to happen. Remember the historic oil deal between the tripartite that we talked about, where there was the Kurdistan region, Baghdad, and the international oil companies? That was one component of it, and successful. Hence, they're starting to pump, and they've been pumping now millions of barrels of oil into Europe, okay, through the Cyan port. But one of the things they still had to hammer out, and what we're hoping for is pre-election time, is more news about the hydrocarbon law, Article 140, those types of things, okay? Oil and gas law, whatever you want to call it. But they're kind of different, of course, because there's natures of the Constitution that deal with Article 140. But keep it in mind, HCL, Article 140, oil and gas related. I'm not going to talk about that now, but one of the key components they need to have fixed, I believe, and we've always talked about salaries. Salaries are always been paid through the 112, 23, 24, and 25 up till now. It's because that's part of their constitutional rights, and that has to deal with their financial management law from 2019, etc. So complex topic, but you've been around long enough that you should probably understand it to some degree. Okay, but one of the key points is the Ministry of Finance and Economy of the Kurdistan Regional Government announced on Tuesday 120 billion dinars of the region's non-oil revenues. That's the key kicker right there. For last August have been deposited in the bank account of the Federal Ministry of Finance. Non-oil revenues. So the Ministry of Finance of the region says in a statement that the Federal Treasury's share of the region's non-oil revenues for August 2025 amounted to 120 billion dinars, has been deposited in cash into the bank account of the Federal Ministry of Finance at the Erbil branch of the Central Bank of Iraq. A little bit confusing, but the bottom line, they deposited 120 billion dinars in cash. Within the framework of financial understandings between the regional government and the federal government regarding the regulation of the oil revenues and their disbursement mechanisms. Well, keep in mind what I just said. Kurdistan region giving the federal government cash, but yet it's in the Erbil region at the Central Bank of Iraq. That's where it gets a little bit confusing. It talks about the framework of the financial understandings between the two regional government and the federal government regarding the regulations of oil revenues and their disbursement mechanisms. It says, according to the ministry's statement, the transfer amount amounted to that 120 billion, but they keep reiterating in dinars. It was transferred in cash directly to the official approved account. It goes on and says these steps come into implementation of financial agreements aimed at ensuring transparency and unifying, another key word, unifying the management of non-oil resources in a way that enhances financial cooperation between Baghdad and Erbil and guarantees the rights and entitlements according to the 2025 budget. Okay? The big thing about this is it's non-oil revenues, and that was a key component that they were supposed to have meetings on. After that historic agreement, they were supposed to, over a week or so ago, have meetings on this particular topic. But here they didn't talk about it, but they're telling you now that they did it. They moved cash, 120 billion dinars in cash, going to the unified system. Effectively, in my view, that's a component of taking cash out of the system. Why? Because they're going to a cash-less society. And the less cash they have, the note count reduces. It helps support their real effective exchange rate. That's how I see it. So we'll see if I'm right. 120 billion dinars in cash deposited into the unified account. This is a very necessary component on the back of the historic oil deal. The remaining issue was non-oil revenue sharing. It was a specific necessity to get in place, in my view. Apparently now they've sorted it out, and at least they're working to that effort. It's going to be an ongoing process. They're going to want their payments for their salaries regularly. And with the system in place, they should be able to do that. And once everything's in line, oil payments, non-oil revenue streams, all of that stuff gets in sync, you're going to see that the Kurds are going to be happy, and all the countries going to be happy, because they're all going to be where their entitlements are concerned, especially if there's a push for their hydrocarbon law, the Article 140, the oil and gas law. If that happens before the election, I would not be surprised, because again, it's a political thing, and we know how politicians are. Well, at least some people, at least I think I do, but maybe some people don't. Here's an article that says the Minister of Trade discusses with the Director General of the World Trade Organization the steps for Iraq's accession to the organization. So isn't this interesting? We've already had a couple articles that just recently made this fresh in the news again. The Ministry of Trade, Athir Dawood Al-Gharawi, he says that he's in Geneva on Tuesday with the Director General of the World Trade Organization. I'm not even going to try to mention her name because, forgive me, I just would brutalize it. But let's just say that, with all due respect, it was the Director General. The latest developments in Iraq's accession to the organization. It says here, they reviewed stages in light of the completion of the work of the National Accession Committee. So the completion of the work of the National Accession Committee, headed by the Ministry of Trade, in addition to the technical subcommittees tasked with preparing the required documents and reports in preparation for holding the fourth meeting on Iraq. Realize that the first quarter of 2025 was supposed to have a meeting. It was supposedly on the schedule, but they just never did it. And so here they're talking about that they've done things, the completion of the work. They've done that stuff. And so maybe we'll see another surprise. Oil's flowing. Unified accounts working, accession. So you're going to see an article tonight about the TIR. It's all about trade, non-oil revenues. It's just going to be amazing, I think. The minister, he goes on and stresses that the meeting, during the meeting, the importance of enhancing cooperation and coordination with the WTO and member states to facilitate the technical and administrative procedures related to the accession process, noting that Iraq's government's keenness to complete all technical and legislative requirements to ensure full membership in the organization. If you guys remember, Saudi Arabia was involved in taking care of all the technicals. Remember that? Okay. And then there was a push from the Australian gentleman, I believe his name's Will Dixon. He was a push on that. And all of them are members that are helping. Saudi, Australia, okay? And then all of a sudden, remember we tied in a little bit about the central bank governor going into the Bank of England, trying to get the nod for the Bank of International Settlements. And then we tied that into the oil movement going from the Cyan port into sales, sold oil through a Swiss company. Where's the Bank of International Settlements? Fascinating, especially if it happens to be an electronic commodity style. We'll see. Tokenized currency. We'll see about that. Okay, so Iwela, she's the director, right? Praised Iraq's commitment and continued efforts to complete the accession requirements and integrate into the global trading system. Well, she praises their commitment, so they're committed to doing this. Continued efforts to complete the accession requirements and integrate into the global trading system, stressing that Iraq's accession will constitute an added value given its economic potential and strategic location that enhances the integration of the international trading systems. I think you can pretty much stop right there and just say that those words are basically suggesting that they have a push to do this. I mean, that's big. Okay, she goes on and says it's noteworthy that this movement is the first of its kind in about 16 years. As part of Iraq's efforts to resume the steps to join the World Trade Organization. I'm sorry, but they haven't just started resuming it, because we already know that Saudi Arabia did, and we also know that Australia was pushing for it within the last couple of month or so. Okay. I don't know, so Q1 2025, meetings accession, didn't happen, but don't be surprised, Q4, it's not over, pretty much just got started. Let's see what happens, because why? Iraq showing the readiness to do so, or they wouldn't be acknowledging it at all. They haven't put it on their calendar yet either. So why? Because probably the fact is that it's going to be an exchange rate oriented circumstance. In other words, they can't. They need to be quiet about it, I would assume. Be definitely prudent. I wouldn't do it either, because you don't want to disturb the markets. You want to do it just right. Remember what we talked about. Iraq does things, and central banks do things. They do things sometimes without any warning, and rightfully so, because they need to have a smooth transition, and they need to do it because they've studied it and do it right. And just like the last time, they said effective immediately. So that's why I've been saying in the past, don't be surprised for a surprise. All right, Iraq's Customs opens an operations center powered by artificial intelligence. You have to ask yourself, well, why is this important? Well, the director of the Customs Authority goes on and talks about on Monday, it says that the authority has opened customs operations centers that operates electronically and in accordance with artificial intelligence. He explains that there is an integrated oversight system that manages the management of customs centers at ports and monitors their work around the clock. That's pretty big. So in other words, they're fine-tuning what's going to be taking place and what is taking place already. It says the center operates administratively and oversight-wise under the supervision of the General Authority of Customs, and there is coordination with the Border Ports Authority, relevant ministries and departments, and security agencies. So everybody's working on it. Qasim goes on and explains that the center represents the cornerstone of the customs strategy, the implementation of the government program and its positive impact, and its role in enhancing non-oil revenues. Circle back to that article, non-oil revenues, the unified account. Isn't that fascinating? These revenues are going to be doing the same thing, just like the Kurds. And now they're getting their salaries paid for August because it's going to be the unified account. And what do they tie in? Not just oil, but non-oil revenues. That's where you've got to start thinking outside the box, because that is the box. Non-oil revenues are going to flow through the borders big time, as far as I can tell. And why? Well, don't you get it? There's a sense of urgency taking place. And that's why we're seeing this type of news. It's fascinating because it's somewhat of like a rollout type circumstance. They've got to tell you what's happening, but they can't tell you exactly how it's going to work. All right, so Here's another article that's going to tie into this too. It's called "The Securities Authority Announces the Approval of the Membership Requirements for the Tabadul Platform between the Iraqi and the Abu Dhabi stock exchanges." You might think, well, what's that got to do with? Well, that's going to have cross-border trade in securities. That's why. Securities and Exchange Commission announced today, Tuesday, it's the approval of the requirements for the membership. It's the approval of the requirements for membership. Okay, it didn't say that they started trading yet, just said they have the approval. It says the Securities Commission announced its approval of the membership requirements for Iraqi brokerage firms to trade via the Tabadul platform in the Abu Dhabi Securities Exchange, as well as the membership requirements for foreign brokerage firms to trade via the platform in the Iraq Stock Exchange, within the framework of the strategic linkage between the two markets, Abu Dhabi and Iraq. Cross-borders securities, opening up in regional and global financial trade. I hope you guys are excited as I am. This gentleman by the name of Hamos, chairman of the Securities Commission, affirmed, "This step represents a new phase in the development of Iraqi financial markets and strengthening their regional integration," noting that the Tabadul platform will contribute to expanding investment opportunities, increasing liquidity, enhancing trading efficiency, and attracting foreign investment into the Iraqi market. It goes on and says the authorities proceeding with implementing its vision to modernize the financial market environment and strengthen partnerships with the Arab and international markets. International markets, that's what they say. In line with the government's goals of supporting the national economy and diversifying sources of growth. He points out that the approval comes as part of a series of strategic steps that strengthen the position of the Iraqi Stock Exchange as a promising investment destination. All powerful. I see this article as more evidence of integration into the regional and financial markets. I see that fully. It looks to be building on the banking and economic reforms, pretty much a no-brainer. The central bank spokesman for reforms in Washington this last week on Iraq's banking and financial reforms, this is all part of that. It's all interconnected. The ISX has been doing reforms for years. Just like here in the United States, you have to have reporting on your stocks. What are you doing? Where's your accounting? Why are you valued at X or Y or Z? They need to know all that. They need to know what you're doing. They have to have accounting. They need to have audited books, that type of thing. So getting the ISX and the ADX interconnected is going to be enabling cross-border securities trading by doing it so they have significant ripple effects. It could have significant ripple effects on liquidity, investment overflows, and over economic stability. This momentum is for Iraq's reform agenda. If they connect, it will highly likely boost measurable trading activity and quickly too. So it's probably going to be like a very powerful move when that happens, because the people that are already in the ISX and the ADX are probably going to have some smiles on their face when it happens. If you're not in it, then you're probably not going to have so much smiles, but we're not necessarily all in for that yet. Basically, there's a snippet what the approval entails. The ISC has officially ratified the membership requirements for the Tabadul platform, a digital exchange hub developed by the ADX. Okay, what does it do? It allows Iraqi brokerage firms to directly access and trade on the ADX. It says foreign, including UAE-based, brokerage firms to trade on the ISX. So it's tit for tat. This stems from a strategic linkage project between the two markets, the ISC chairman Hamas describing it as a new phase in developing Iraq's financial markets and boosting regional integration. The platform itself isn't new. ADX launched Tabadul as a multilateral trading link, and Iraq signed an MOU to join back in April of 2025, making it the 9th member alongside exchanges with Bahrain, Oman, Armenia, and others. This October approval essentially green lights the operational side, clearing the way for actual cross-trading to begin. Cross-trading borders and securities. There's going to be a change coming, you guys. There's going to be a change. Potential impacts. Absolutely, this isn't just symbolic, in my opinion. It isn't just symbolic. It could have tangible effects on Iraq's economy and its path toward global financial reforms. Global financial norms, too. Increased liquidity and efficiency. By enabling seamless remote access for brokers across borders, capital should boost trading volumes on the ISX, which has historically suffered from low liquidity. Hamis noted also, it will expand investment opportunities, increase liquidity, improving trade and efficiency, and attracting foreign investments. This aligns with broader goals to modernize Iraq's markets, making them more attractive and compliant with international standards. Okay, better transparency, regulatory alignment, those types of things. Also, what's it going to do? It's going to attract foreign direct investment. We've seen a lot of that in the news, FDI. We've been seeing that. Easier cross-border access could draw in other regional investors that go on. Economic financial system benefits. This one's going to be interesting. On a macro level, stronger ties with stable markets. The ADX, which is, okay, it's a stable market, which is tech forward and linked to multiple exchanges, so it's not just them. So the ADX is connected to others. Support Iraq's effort to stabilize its currency and financial system. Supports Iraq's efforts to stabilize its currency and financial system. So if they change the value of their currency, this is going to help them with that. That's how I would read that. It says it complements the CBI's reforms you mentioned earlier, or what has been mentioned earlier, as a more integrated stock market could improve overall financial resilience, reduce black market activities, all of the things that Al-Alaq's been working on, and align with who? The IMF, the WTO norms for trade and investment. That's why this is all happening. And where was the central bank governor deputy? He was in Washington talking about compliance. Taif Sami, finance minister, was there. They were talking about financial and banking reforms. Were they not? Absolutely. Who were they talking about? The largest financial institutions in the world. And then now they're talking about interconnecting securities trading. Powerful. So in other words, last thing on this particular article is regional and global ripple effects. Capital's hub fosters broader Arab market connectivity, which could position Iraq as a gateway for investments in the Middle East. Think about it for those. What else are they doing? They're having trucking to move goods from east to west, from the port of Fa all the way into Europe. They're proving it. They have all kinds of different things that show this. And here's an example. Transportation. More than 150 international shipments passed through Iraq. I went and did a little bit more research, but I didn't print it out tonight. But this says 150. It also quotes 200. But ultimately, what I found today is there's probably fresher information that says it's upwards of almost 300, 270 to 300. So if it's a pilot that they use to get this sorted, but this is not what I'm getting from it. They're actually starting the process. Ministry of Transport, Tuesday, successful and safe passage of more than 150 international shipments, so that's not wrong. Iraq has joined the TIR agreement for international transport, and the implementation of the development path will be the cornerstone, another cornerstone, of course, in the process of a smooth ascent facilitation to entry of shipments through Iraq. The implementation of a TR agreement began in March of 2025. Interesting, that was in April, which steadily increasing shipment entry as a safe, successful passage of more than 150 to 200 shipments to the Iraq was recorded. So they're kind of softballing it, in my view. The ministry seeks to expand this work to include all border crossings, ports such as the Ibrahim Al-Khalil, the Safwan, the Treble, the Arar, in addition to ports and all ports, whether eastern, western, southern, or northern. So in other words, they're going to do this, like it or not, in all the ports. There's a strong relationship between the local land transport guarantor and the private trucking sector, which have more than 52,000 private sector trucks. So they got a nice little armory going there. Supervised by the General Company for Land Transport. It says, we also have good relations with International Road Transport Union, which has facilitated the implementation of TIR agreements in Iraq. So to me, this is looking like tying up loose ends. The infrastructure and trade reforms have been in the reconstruction and development file for some time now. I mean, reconstruction, they've been doing all of these things. Development road project, the trucking has started, the shipping is coming in to the Port of Fa. You can see where this is all headed. Oil starting to flow again. Basically, the TR is showing success and expansion to all these different border ports, if you will. So ultimately, it's great. It's been looking really good. And again, they call it a cornerstone, if you will. Moving goods from east to west through Europe. Why? Because they've had supply disruptions, supply chains. The Red Sea has been a problem. And so they've been doing all kinds of things to alleviate that. And the Port of Fa is going to help with that. And so that's what we have for you guys tonight. So I hope you guys like the content. Hit the like, subscribe, and thank you again for all your help keeping this channel going. PayPal is the go place. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content. Subscribe to the channel or join us at the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.